Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, and welcome to a very special report. Now, some of the information I'm going to talk about is, I guess, information I've put out there before, but it's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I did it, so I thought I needed to do it again, but for two reasons this time. Number one, for you, if you're new and you haven't seen any of our reports before, and some of the reports that I did before kind of got lost in some live force calls, so I thought I would put this out again. But the second reason why I'm doing this right now has more to do with what is going on right now. So first, before I can explain to the deep state and the order and all these other people that are watching this right now, as to what's going on, because nobody seems to know. Well, I know, and I can explain it to you in detail. But before I do that, I need to explain to you how the order came to be and where these people came from and what the power structure here on Earth looked like. Now, we've talked about this before, so I guess, again, if some of this is repeat information, but some of it will also be new because everybody keeps asking me how I got this job. Well, I didn't really want to say anything to anybody for a long, long time, basically for security reasons. And since kind of what I was concerned about already happened this past week, or it had been happening for 5 years, I guess, because the little girls were about 5 years old, I figured there's no point. I might as well say it now because it doesn't really matter anymore. So that was an old order from Marduk before he left. So let's talk about the power structure of Earth. Right? It's important to understand who is who in the zoo, how they got there, and why they were here. So I didn't finish the History of the World series just yet, but you'll notice in the next one, I guess you would say, that the Draco did come back again. And they came back probably about 16,000 years ago. And they actually came back per the request of the humans, believe it or not, because the planet was under attack, severe attack. And I guess they thought, or one group, I should say, thought it was a great idea to call them back. So they came back. Anyway, let's talk about the Draco. Who are the Draco? Let's see, I don't want to go too high. Okay. It's important to understand we are not alone here on this planet. I know that might come as a shock to some of you. Oops, that's a little bit too high. This may come as a shock to some of you, but it's true. We have never been alone on this planet. We are not from this planet originally, and we were brought to this planet and had come and gone many, many times over millions and millions of Earth years. So who were the Draco? So we have Marduk, or had, I should say, and we have Enki and Enlil. Okay, and I guess you would say not here, but frequently visiting Anu. Now, Enlil, there's a lot of myths and folklore and whatnot about Enlil here on this planet and the tablets of destiny and all of this stuff. And it's relevant today because people are still chasing these things, right? And they don't understand why they're not working, and they're mythical tablets, and how do we decipher the codes on here? And then they're going round and round and round. So last I heard, the Vatican had them. Well, or the Jesuits or whoever. But it doesn't really matter. It makes no difference because they're not valid anymore, because the real registration and the most important thing to understand is the Hall of Records. If it's not in the Hall of Records, or it's been voided in the Hall of Records, then that goes into the ether, so to speak, and they're not valid. So you can chase funny little objects all you want, and there's actually an entire group that does just that, and we'll talk about that in a minute further down the line. It doesn't make a difference, okay? Now, some of this power structure has been dismantled, and I'll go over that in a minute. So who was Marduk? I knew all three. I chatted with all three for probably about 2 years, 3 years, got to know them. Cunning, charming, but yet methodical and diabolical nonetheless. They really didn't care much for humans. They were more concerned about the planet and taking over of the planet, its resources, and its direct connection to both the upper and lower world astrals, I guess you would say, and densities. Marduk, very charming, kind of took a different approach with me, tried to convince me he was a good guy, just like some of you are being told by other people right now, way down the food chain. It's very clear when I see the actions of what the quote unquote deep state is doing, how I can tell who trained who. So Marduk took over for Enlil. So Enlil was in charge before. Marduk became in charge, and he was what you would call the head general of planet Earth. He ran every operation. He gave the orders every year and then they went on down the food chain to eventually you. Now, the reason why I'm saying you is not you personally, but I'm talking to the militaries. I'm talking to the order. I'm talking to all of these people because right now, as we speak, they have been going from different portal to portal to portal to try to establish that connection before this year's meeting so they could hopefully get some orders this year. But what their now dead masters didn't tell them is that they're not there anymore. And they didn't even get any instructions last year. Okay? The whole doesn't work anymore. You can go from Slovenia, where you were earlier today, to Greece, where, there's other things going on. And you could go, you could go to Germany, you could go to US, you could go all these places where you were this last weekend in Maryland, matter of fact, and it's not going to help you any. Nobody is home anymore. I took those over months ago. So relax. You're still going to call me. So you can call me on the phone, you can call me in person, but you're still going to call me. Whether you're going down a hole, up a hole, it doesn't make a difference. They all go to the same place now. So how did this happen? We're going to explain. Okay, so that was Enki and Enlil and Marduk. Now, Enlil was kind of indifferent, I guess you would say, very quiet, but what he did behind your back was even worse than what he did in front of your face. Marduk tried to convince everybody that this was the way, you're going to be special and all of these types of things. And, a lot of people he did convince, especially throughout the order. They're all special, right? They're special bloodlines. But what exactly does that mean? I'm going to talk about that, how you came to be too. Okay, and then we have Enki. Enki was what they used to call the ultimate spook. He was the one that would structure operations, all those types of things, how to maintain control of the sheep, us on the planet, and how to structure the, I guess you would say, madness for fear and lack concerns for the rest of us for the next following year. Now, this meeting always took place on the, I guess you would say, 3 new moons before the full moon of the harvest moon every year. So, of course, that changes every single year. But this year, that happens to be tomorrow. Now, that meeting is quite different now. We'll go over that in a minute. So, Marduk, over the course of the years, acquired certain humans we call the parents, okay? There were 21 parents. And why do they call them parents? Well, they call them a number of different things, really. They are humans that were given a gift of immortality. They lived for thousands of years. Why did they give them that gift? Well, in exchange for special skills that each one had, so he could control both the light and the dark. Well, yep, get that one. Okay, so let's break up the parents into 3 groups of 7 each. My handwriting's terrible, so forgive me. Okay, so we have 7 here, 7 here, and 7 here. Okay, so every year in this meeting, looks like my camera faded out. Every year in this meeting, they would have a discussion amongst themselves first, right? Probably also in cooperation with the Abraxas. Now, the Abraxas, as I said before, we're like the royalty, the spoiled brat children, the humans 1.0. We're so special people. And they had a deal with the Draco, and they had a deal also with the Mantids, right? The Mantids actually ran security for the system that I run now, and also the other one. That's not exactly how the Draco got access, but it's close, okay? So they were running security, I guess you would say, for the ultimate AI dueling systems that existed and exist. One still exists. So, okay. If we break them up into groups of 7, underneath the parents, you would have had 42 covens. Okay? And these were the family masters. So when people are talking to you about the RV and they're coming from grandfather as the family master of the Asian dragon families or blah, 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 this is who they're talking about. Okay. Now, these are people that do black magic. They do all kinds of things, but they were bred to come to be by the parents. Okay. Not all the parents were male and not all were female. They were both male and female. And they were bred into, they bred the covens together with the Draco. So yes, all of you that were involved in the order have a certain amount of reptilian blood in you. That's why everybody says they're so special. Well, hey, does that make you any different? I don't know. We're all splices in some way, shape, or form. We are not the original humans. We've been genetically modified. We're still being genetically modified to this day through food, air, water, you name it, right? Medicines. We know this is all happening. Okay, so now we have 42 coven and family masters. So every year around this time, what would actually happen, this meeting would go on for 2 weeks, okay? And it's due to start, would be starting tomorrow. And they would discuss their plans for all of us sheeple and the running of Earth for the next year. They would say things like, okay, well, we need to move this around. We need to change the financial system. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then it would come down to the parents. And then the parents, each one would be responsible for both being the savior, creating the problem, and then one group would focus on being the solution. Each one of the parents had a special skill that interested I guess you would say, the Draco. Some were responsible for financial matters. So there could be 2 or 3 that were. I think there was 2 at the time. Some were responsible for giving information to militaries, agencies, whatnot like that. And others were responsible for the narrative and media. How are we going to play this off to the average everyday person? How do we make it believable that this was just an accident? This was just a war. This was just a thing. Okay. Well, they would actually start working together to say who was going to be the good cop, who was going to be the bad cop. And then that would go on for another 2 weeks until the following full new moon would start. Now the next meeting would happen. That next meeting often took place amongst the covens because the orders would come down to these 42 people. These are humans, probably possessed humans in some ways, but they were humans nonetheless. And then they would start weaving their magic. Now, not all 42 would receive the same orders, and nobody ever got the whole plan, including the parents. Marduk always told me, and he's right, he did. He always left the last piece to himself, and only he could execute on it. So he gave them as much information, compartmentalized, as he needed to give them. They passed it down here, and they, of course, also compartmentalized information. And this is where all of you confusing white hats and who's president think that is important. It's not important, okay? So all those decisions were made a long time ago. And even though the parents are all gone, and I'll go over that in a second, but even though they're all gone, they still left instructions for the 42 coven family masters only. Now, each of these 42 covens were also divided again, right? So the right hand never knew what the left hand was doing. The information was compartmentalized. Each person got different information and suitable to their purpose. So some of the covens the family masters would be like running the Order of the Black Sun, and there was more than one. And then there would be other ones that you would consider Sanhedrins, or the main people that run, what you call the Khazarian Mafia. Now they run them, okay? They do not act on their own. So if I see one more video from somebody going, the Khazarian Mafia, we're fighting the Khazarian Mafia. No, you're kind of not. You're just like involved in a different section and you just don't know what the other person is doing and who's the bad cop today and who's the good cop today, right? You just don't know. So the overall plan came from here, went down to here, and went down to here. Now, each coven had members, right? And this is what we're left with, struggling with, I guess you would say, today. So some covens had 2 or 3 members. Some of them had 100 or 50 or 75. It just depended. Now, who chose the family masters? The answer to the question is the parents did. The parents chose which of their human pets, right, were going to do the work. They also chose who had the most, I guess you would say, skill for a specific requirement that they were looking for in world domination game that they were playing. Okay. So it's important to understand how this all goes. So they are children, according to the parents, and right, they are children. They're their children. That's true. Okay. And it's been going on generation after generation. That's why they're so concerned about keeping the bloodline pure and so on and so forth. That is why that was also important to them. Now, these people would further carry out the operation. So the parents might say, we need to transfer power of Earth from, I guess you would say, the America, right, to China. Well, they would give them some information like on how to possibly achieve this task. What would happen in the media? What would happen over here with these people? What would happen over there with these people? And then these people would get their little tiny piece, their little tiny bit of instructions that so that they could carry out their part. So in other words, if there was a coven, it was probably about 3 or 4 that were involved in military affairs, right? And the ones that were involved in the military affairs would then instruct in order the coven members who were all infiltrated into the military you don't see. Okay, we have a shadow military, just like you have a shadow government. Here it is, right? And just like you have a shadow agency that you don't see. Okay, so coven members. We do have a few of these people left. And they're struggling right now because they know some of this information, but not all of this information. So they don't know where to go, where the information comes from. Some of them might have gotten some information from these people, but they're not really sure. They don't really, they don't get it. If they get it, then we're all in trouble because they're running around like chickens with their head cut off. Now, one question I keep getting asked by the militaries and the agencies and these remaining members is, how am I one step ahead of you? Well, I sit here, okay? This guy is dead, died in 2019, this guy 2016, and these two the same year. I think one was 2017. I think it was Enki. So they're all gone. So I sit there. Now, when I got the chair, there were all the manuals. Oh my God, you're kidding me. So I knew all of the orders and instructions that were given to the parents that carried us out, probably, I would say on the high end, for the 42 covens, on the high end, I would say the next 20 years. So I had to be prepared, right? This is called warfare. Since we're getting to the end of the war now, I figured I now can tell all of you what I've been doing this whole time and how I find you before, I guess you would say, you even know you're going to go there. How's that? Because the instructions were still coming up until a couple of years ago. So I had to figure out where we're going next. How do I know? Now you know how I know. I have the steering wheel. So I knew before you did what your instructions were going to be for the next year and have been run counter you the whole time. Okay, so now these are your struggling members. Why are your members of the covens struggling right now? Well, they're struggling because all of these people are too dead. So when I say we've made progress, we've made serious progress. So all the parents are gone. They're not in the multiverse anymore. They are gone. No remaining parents, no remaining instructions except for the ones that I have, which would have been your instructions from the order, which I'm never going to carry out and I'm never going to give you. So you're going to struggle even more here coming up unless you change your tune. So you're in serious trouble right now. And I know you know that, and I know that. And that's how I found what you were doing even this morning before you started doing it. I may not know the exact day you plan on showing up, but I know you plan on showing up soon. So I always kind of make sure that whatever you do isn't really going to happen. So, and you're following instructions from 2 years ago. Now, if they told you in your meeting last year that they got instructions, that was a lie. They made up instructions. This is why we keep running repeat wars, repeat this, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And this goes all the way down to the agency people, even the ones hanging out in Ukraine right now, right? America is this and Russia's the boogeyman, and here let's play the narrative. But that came from these people who aren't really right, or weren't, God rest their soul, not really, right in the head. Okay, they're humans, but their arrogance is a weakness. They kind of have lost their mind a little bit long time ago. That's what happens when you eat too much dark essence, which they love. And yeah, now you're left with just a few remaining members. I think as of this morning, there was probably about 41 of these people. Now, these people have been running around the planet trying to find something, somewhere, some alien to call anywhere to help them out because they don't know what to do without orders and instructions. Well, conversely speaking, we would be happy to give you orders and instructions. They're just not going to be for world domination anymore. So we know exactly where we're going. We could use some of the tools that you have in your toy box before you lose them all, or aren't here anymore. Because I know everybody gets so excited as we go down the food chain here. Now we're the top. We earned the right to be the top. No, you really didn't. What that makes you when you go against humanity, cannon food. Okay, so be careful about wanting to be at the top. Now that being said, we'll take out the current situation here for a minute. So take the 42 family masters all ran different coven members who in turn ran things like, we're still not at government, guys, okay, about your secret military. Okay. I will give you a list of the secret military, and let's see what each one did. We have Kruger, Kruger. I should probably erase some of this. Now that we understand the hell we've been living in. Okay, here we go. Okay. Secret military. Okay. Kruger. Cyberlife. Let's see, who else do we have here? Shoreline. Ran into these guys yesterday. Sorry. Trinity. We also have, let's see, I put my list here. Delphi. And Typhoon. Now, these are not all American run. Okay. Let's see. We have Typhoon. We have Monarch. Ran into these guys about a week ago. Yes, I know who you are. 8. We have Mobius. We also have Murkoff. And we have the Umbrella Corp. And we have Shaw House, which is more of a family, but okay. And we have Arasaka. We talked about them in a previous news report. I know I saw someone writing on some chat somewhere about why am I talking about all of this stuff? Well, because you say you want to be free, right? But do you know what that is? Freedom is not money. Freedom is we're all not going to die. Arasaka was the one with the femto tech, just to remind you. And then we have Tai Young. Now, some of the descriptions and some of these names you might have seen before, but if you worked for the Secret Space Force, you are probably somewhere in here. You probably work for one of these groups, right? So the Order of the Black Sun, right? So you've got your covens and whatnot, and that would be your section, right, that you belong to. Your family bloodline, bred with the parents in the Draco, and that's who you are. That's what makes you special. So now these people here would get their contracts every year at usually the third family meeting, right? There was a little bit of a hierarchical thing that went on for a long time, a few thousand years, where the dragon families, I guess you would say, were higher in rank. That was only because it was the game they were playing. That was where they were in the game of Earth that Marduk designed. They were higher for that reason. And these guys here would have been responsive to them. I would say these people in the grand scheme of the world are getting closer to actually your shadow government at this point that you know about, because they would play along with like your Rothschilds and all of these people. They would, your Chinese dragon families, your Russian dragon family, your Middle Eastern dragon family, they're all the same, and they all play on behalf of them the role for the instructions that came from the covens. Well, about 2018, they realized that their commitment, based on 1,000 years of playing the game this way, ended, or 3,000 years ended. So they decided, and they knew about this ending, and they knew it was going to happen. So they went ahead and they prepared to not listen to those people anymore and started listening and trying to fight against each other for taking over the world. So a lot of the people that you see from insert 3 letters here, it doesn't matter what country you're in, all are thinking they're the good guys and they're going to save us from the Khazarian mafia. Not really, because I will explain that to you in just one second, right? But you still, nobody talks about these people. Like, let's go over just briefly, what each group started to do, I guess you would say in some cases. Okay. So let's talk about Kruger, since we talked about them first. They were established in 1815 in our timeline. They've been here before. They've been other places. They were established after the Napoleonic Wars. The organization was founded by former Nazi Gabriel Kruger, who was originally from the year 1815 before he time traveled forward in time to the 1920s. Yes, we've been doing that for a long time. You just don't know about it, and you're not informed about it. Of course, it would only be for the special people, and of course, only when permitted by Marduk. Otherwise, you people weren't going anywhere either. Okay. To connect his descendants in Germany prior to World War II, Kruger specializes in building and using physical augments and gives personnel highly enhanced abilities such as greater speed, agility, and strength. No surprise that the entire German army during World War II was on essentially meth. So that is where they got it from. So the Kruger military basically makes your super soldiers, not your MK Ultra. That's a different group. But this one here specializes in super soldiers with extreme stamina. They're the runners. They're the ones that have allegedly superhuman strength and superhuman intelligence. And I used to call it Jason Bourne crack. You've seen the movies Jason Bourne. If you haven't, they're a good watch. They're entertaining, but they're taking these pills and whatnot to make them a more enhanced human. And then they talk about Project Black something. I can't remember, Blackstone or whatever it was, Treadstone. That's what it was. But that's where all those programs come from. Now, those are only for special people. Now, these could also be regular people that are not family people that enter into these programs, but they must exhibit certain behaviors already to be, I want to say, a candidate for this type of, I guess you would say, this type of augmentation. There you go. So genetic modification group number 1 for super soldiers. Okay, cyber life was actually established in the year 1650. Okay, if we go back even further here. Just a few years after the end of the 30 Years' War in Europe, they specialize in the production of artificial human robots called androids. We have lots of different types of AI that have been around for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years on this planet, okay? Not everyone that you see is human. You'd be surprised at how good they are at it. So they also have been somewhat involved, I guess you would say. They've been mass producing these robots for a long period of time, I guess over 100 years now, just about. And they are also somewhat involved a little bit lately with the femtotech and how to take an actual living, breathing, organic human being and turn them into a robot. So they've been cooperating with other militaries. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Shoreline. Shoreline is the second oldest organization on the list, as they have been mentioned throughout history and ancient texts up to 5,000 years. So this is not a new game we're playing here. And I know everybody's like, why does it take so long? Where's this? Where's that? We want to restore the planet. Well, I want to restore the planet too, but you've got to understand you're not restoring anything as long as these people are hanging out, right? It's never going to happen unless somehow they decide that they are going to restore this planet with us, the remaining people, then they got to go. Part of the talk in this meeting that starts tomorrow, which we've already been kind of talking. So let's see. So they specialize in extracting information and knowledge from any sort of media, individual, or species. This is done using non-matter energetic fields to perform an astral integration and intelligent data absorption to extract data of interest. Shoreline often collaborates with super soldiers in certain programs to share these resources in order to protect some of the most valuable information on the planet. So some of these are all disclosed or soft disclosed, I guess you would say, in various video games. Sorry about that. I have if you can hear the puppy in the background, this is a puppy that had some trauma my daughter took in, so I watch her during the day. Okay, so let's see. Next on the list, Trinity. Trinity was formed in 1881, so they're new kids on the block, and their focus is recovering ancient technologies around the globe. Hitler, anyone? And repairing them into an operational state. Now, when they say ancient technologies, they're talking about technologies far more advanced than what we have ever had access to. So they are trying to, let's see, one of their main initiatives allegedly recently is to stabilize the corrupted electromagnetic field in the solar system using some of the ancient technologies that exist. And that is in some part true. You know, we are trying to take the fields one way, they're trying to take the fields the other way, and we're fighting constantly over this battle. This is important to you. You need to understand. Everybody, you know, well, not everybody, but some people looked at me and said, oh, Tesseract is evil. Tesseract is evil. No, it's not. It's just an energetic field that protects you. I mean, you can use them in many different ways when you structure it right. And these guys are well aware of that and constantly trying to dismantle that. That's lovely. Okay, so Delphi, founded in 1918 by Peter Mason, as a response to the heavy use of poison gas and chemical warfare during the First World War. This is where the term weapons of mass destruction was originally formed. So they were doing some pretty horrible tests in psychiatric hospitals all around the world. They have done many, let's just say, surgeries on patients and whatnot to find out gases that work. These were the people that came up with red gas, brown gas, and so on and so forth. Some of the things are positive and some of the things are negative. For example, these people have had the technology to clean up the area all around Chernobyl before there was even an explosion. They can clean up any kind of nuclear waste. We have that technology on our side too. But they could have done this years and years ago. I knew it existed, but they are definitely known for doing some pretty bad, like my lab experimentations, let's just say, on human beings in order to, let's say, get these products, right? Okay, the Typhon group is German-based. They allegedly originated from an alternative reality where the Nazis and the Axis powers actually won the World War II. Now, again, wars are not real, okay? It's just whatever M felt like doing at the time. We play this game over and over and over again. It's the reason why you have deja vu. It's the reason why you feel like you have past lives, right? Like you remember being this person, or if you're a woman, a man, a woman, and you remember being murdered. You remember how you died. You remembered how you lived. You remember certain things. There's also a lot of people out there that remember not being on this planet and being somewhere else they don't recognize. And even most recently, because the timelines are no longer, right? But that doesn't mean your life and your soul existence someplace else didn't happen. And it doesn't mean it might not even be concurrently happening for some of you, because a lot of people volunteered to be here at this time, right? For the time when there was no more time or timelines. So some of these groups are no different. They possessed technology. They retained that technology. They were re-given that technology, whereas we were giving them basically a mind wipe and we had to figure it out for ourselves, right? Yay. Okay, monarch military. Run into these people a lot. They go as far back as 6,000 years ago. They are the oldest and allegedly the worst conglomerate on the planet when it comes to overall negativity and ill intent towards humanity and the planet. Monarch currently has one specific goal: to create the ultimate slave system to control and dominate humanity. Welcome to the last 2 years, right? All psychological war games. They probably got that, how to do the virus 101 thing or something like that, and they play psychological warfare since they hate us. They would love to have shifted our timeline, and they participated very heavily in the war until, I would say, at least they were smart enough to figure out by the 24th of April that it wasn't coming back. They made a couple more runs on different dates like June 3rd, June 13th, and a few other times we've run into them. And they're predominantly concerned with, wait a minute, this isn't how it's supposed to go, right? And they're losing the war. They don't understand why that timeline doesn't exist anymore and it's not coming back, and why they can't change it anymore. Well, all technologies are based on a few different types of energy sources. And if you don't have one and you can't control the other and you can't use the other for evil, well, you kind of like probably should go. Maybe you could find another timeline you could exist in and get out of ours. That'd be great. But I don't think anybody wants you either. Okay, Mobius, another very old organization that has references in text as old as 4,000 years. Mobius specializes in the ability to manipulate the fabric and configuration of our reality and context of our existence itself. So if you remember the movie Matrix, they talked about Mobius all the time, but they were actually referring to the Mobius military group or the Mobius Corporation. They were, I would say, some of them were in charge of the actual Matrix. So we talked about the Matrix rooms going down and those types of things. If as human beings, they would have never had access to that anyway. That was always run by others, but they would have participated in the trapping of the human population into a false matrix designed reality, the video game we all lived in for a long, long time, and subservience. So this would be your PSI ops and your other mind-altering inception technologies, and those types of things would have come from Mobius. Murkoff was founded in 1923 as our youngest company on the list by Alexander Murkoff. Murkoff was a highly eccentric Soviet psychiatric medical doctor who largely believed to be the craziest and most extreme doctor to have ever existed. Much of the work coming out of Murkoff involved large, brutal, inhumane, and sadistic types of experimentation on MyLab abductees and super soldiers. The majority of what Murkoff was involved in, is what most would consider madness. However, in the process of all of this, he was able to create Project Walrider. Here, Markov was able to perfect a process by which he could capture and extract an individual's soul essence. By doing this, he would then create a collective conscious or a hive mind type astral being. And we'll talk more about why essence is so important. Thank you very much, Marduk. In just a minute. And what happened to me this past weekend, which is great. Okay, so now you understand that group. Okay, Umbrella Corp also ran into them recently. These are your virus makers, right? The T virus, Erbos, Veronica virus, the Hong Kong flu, and the most recent pandemic as well. So if you want to know where they're located, they would be located all over the world, including in Wuhan, China. Just one place. The Americans cooperated with them. The Russians cooperated with them. The Ukrainians cooperated with them. The British cooperated with them in the recent situation we were all involved in. We're on YouTube, so I'm going to leave it at situation, but you know the one I'm talking about, right? So yes, they are your chemical warfare folks. They all work together. There is no separation of militaries or anything like that. It just happened to be which coven got which instructions on which day and who was going to play the good cop and who was going to play the bad cop. That's all. You probably were shocked when they released that and they were going to do it, is what you thought, right? You thought, they said if they're not in control, that would be your Khazarian mafia, bad people. If they were not in control by whatever it was, 2019, then they were going to release a virus. Okay. No. One coven got the orders and instructions to do that, gave that down at the next meeting to the family level, who then gave the contract to the Umbrella Corporation to go ahead and do such a thing. But everybody knew anyway it was going to happen. They got the instructions the year prior. We already knew that. So posturing and saying that they were going to is crap. And to think that you are the good guys fighting against it is also crap, because you're just playing your part in the movie. This is a movie. You all live in a movie. You say, oh, I've heard this story before from a very high-ranking brigadier. We're not part of the video game. Oh, no. Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. This is your whole life has been designed for you. You never had a singular original thought ever. Like you never got an opportunity to do that. That was all designed for you. You were given step-by-step instructions on exactly what to do. Now, you didn't mind it because they told you that you were special, right? So as a special one, you get to do special things. And therefore, your ego wouldn't permit you to understand you are living in a video game too. You didn't design the video game. You didn't make the operation. You didn't choose which side of the theater you were going to be on in any way, shape, or form. That was all chosen for you by other people. Okay? And this is why you're flailing now. All right. So Shaw House Military. Shaw House is neither a company or a corporation, but rather a family-based club for highly prominent members of society. They cover a wide range of illegal and business activities around the world, which also includes human trafficking and prostitution and slavery and human organ harvesting. And they also sell intel from various intelligence services into the marketplace and cutting-edge weapons. Now, these people would be directly related to the IRA, right? Someone's got to do the dirty work. They just come up with the plan. They get the information from the coven members, from the coven master, from the parents, from Marduk. Okay? So this is what their job is. So when people tell me that certain orange people are saving babies, no, I don't think so. See, because you might be a member of one coven And these people are a member of a different coven, and they each got different orders, right? But they have to make a savior from somewhere. You know, the savior program is a very real thing. You have to have a boogeyman. You have to have the good guy and the bad guy. If there wasn't a good guy and a bad guy in nearly every single movie, no one would go to the movies and no one's watching your movie anymore. So we got to make life entertaining. Unfortunately, this is real life for us, right? So no, you're not, some orange guy is not fighting, you know, whatever, human trafficking. If you are an ex-military person, ex-CIA, Navy SEAL, and you think you're fighting human trafficking, you're not fighting human trafficking. You would be put into a situation from your intel people from the other coven where you wouldn't even know who's doing it or where it's coming from. I haven't heard one of you people that have gone on YouTube and said, I'm with the CIA, or I was formerly CIA, or I was this person, or I was that person, and anyone ever say we're fighting the Shaw Corporation. No one. No one even thought about it. You know, you're all worried about tarot card readings and who's going to be president. No one cares. And your life doesn't depend on who is going to be president on any country, anywhere, ever. And you'll see more about that in a second. Okay. Now, that's why every time anyone asks me that question, I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't have an original thought anymore. And they're told that promptly when they become president. Okay. That's the first thing that happens before they step out on the podium to accept. You know, if you look back at like Obama's acceptance speech, the first time he became president, that man changed completely white. I mean, his face was white. And that was because he got the little talking to. We run you, you work for us, you don't work for anyone else. If you didn't know that before you started running, you should have, because he's a member too. We will tell you when to eat, live, breathe, move, where you're going tomorrow, and exactly every word of your speech will be written by us. You will attack the countries we tell you to attack. We will tell you to have this kind of response to a crisis that is going to come up in exactly 3 months in the American, country, and how exactly you're going to handle it, right? So you'll just sit down there and you'll play the video game with us, other video game members. You just don't realize it. Okay. Same thing happened to Trump, by the way. That was no different. If you look at his face in his acceptance speech, I mean, he was already white to begin with, but he was a little less orange that day because he looked like he was going to throw up, and they ran him the whole time, and they're still running him. Recent people that have walked in and out of there, right, to the thing that's in there, constantly surrounded by CIA agency people. Probably a little higher than agency. You're probably talking about some of those super soldier people on the Jason Bourne crack or whatever. But nonetheless, the whole operation is being run by agency people. Yep. And these are the remaining groups, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, we have Arasaka. Arasaka is in Japan, initially founded in 1915. They were essentially a manufacturing organization in the very, very beginning. They would develop technologies, computers, security equipment, and all of that. Well, now they were taking a part, as I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, in the femto and nanotech that is being inserted into certain swabs in your nose, things, and other things. That is their part, right, from their different sector of instructions that came through for the last couple of years, right? That's their part. They're just doing their little part in their video game of their own, of the special people video game. Chiron Corporation is largely involved in operations and initiatives related to the digitizing of an individual's brain and into technology interface. By the year 2084, they hope to have implantable brain chips similar to Neuralink technology, but much more advanced and made mandatory for most of the population of Earth, aka us. Okay. All right. So they are also involved in your establishment of cryptocurrency. Sorry, crypto people, but that's true. And it's all over the internet, and you can find it everywhere. If you weren't so worried about trying to escape the system to be in the system of another system of a different coven, you would understand that, and you would do your research, and you would listen to what we're saying here. Okay? You just switched covens. That's all. One group to another. Maybe that one's sunnier. I don't know. Okay, and Tai Young Medical, we also mentioned them recently as we had some issues coming out of there. That's where your Winston Wu would have come out of. These people started out making cybergenetic arms. Remember the movie Terminator? They've been doing it a lot longer than that, probably in the 1970s this all started. They also are involved in illegal activities around the world. These are the people that would run, I guess you would say, the SSP in China. They were over the, they would have been over the Politburo. They would have been part of the same group, just in a different arm and a different leg. And like I said, everybody received instructions from the same place. So that kind of covers your secret military. So I was asked a question this week by, I guess we'd say indirectly, by some of the military that hang out in Cheyenne. And they asked, what do we do? Where do we go? We don't have any orders. What's happening? We don't even know who the infiltrators are if we were to fight them. Well, I just told you. Okay. I just told you. Now I'll tell you, both sides have people that are colonels, generals, and military people in every country in the entire world. These people are also very heavily tied into the agencies of the world, especially the major countries, and we'll go over that structure in just a minute here. But they are very infiltrated into everything. So you might have the 42 covens. We'll go over how many groups are left when we're done. But out of the 42 covens, you might have one member from each coven in the U.S. military. As an example, they are the bloodlines, right? That's why you ever wonder why father to son, especially when they start hitting general level and higher, they all join the military. Well, it's to keep that perpetuating for their specific coven that they're involved in. Okay. So, and depending on who's giving the orders, they think they're fighting, mandatory to get the whole military vaccinated came out this morning. I think it was in the U.S. Some general saying there was insubordination at West Point due to the fact that they were not adhering to the vaccine mandate of the military. Well, okay. Now you can start to see who the players in the game are. So if everybody was instructed to take the virus from this company and give it to there and make it look like it came from over there instead of over here, all of that's orchestrated for you. Okay. So the fact that you see the people that are in the military that are pushing for the other guys over here with the nano and the femto tech tells you which coven they're from and which secret military has implanted them into your organization. So you just have to watch for instructions and key terms that people keep repeating and demanding, right? Like Millie. Millie cannot get off the bus. Why? He's still taking orders from some remaining group and refuses to believe he is not the king of the world and special. Not special. Not special. Okay. All right, so let's go further down the road. So now we talked about militaries and intelligence agencies, right? And they're all run by these people. Now, as we get further down the road, the GIA, we talk about that all the time over here, okay? The GIA ran every intelligence agency in the world. That's a little bit too high. Sorry about that. The GIA ran every intelligence agency in the world. They were called the Global Intelligence Agency. The Global Intelligence Agency was responsible for getting funding and orders from above, and then giving those orders to your respective intelligence agencies and whatnot. Now, they used to be a part, they would be the ones to give orders to NATO. These were the ones that would receive orders down the line, and then they would pick someone within there that had a specialty in that. So say they wanted to do kind of fake war, starting with biological warfare. They would call that section or those few guys and ladies or whoever, and then they would go wherever and do what they had to do and make sure it happened. Just like in Ukraine, right? But wait, there is no more GIA. The only part of the GIA that exists right now is I am the director of the GIA. Why? Because I am at the top and I can put myself anywhere I want to put myself. I could even make myself a parent and give you people orders and you would follow them just because you didn't know any better, but you might question because they won't be the same agenda that you were already on, right? So the GIA always ran every single intelligence agency in the world, and they were a part of every intelligence agency in the world. The Americans are not fighting the Ukrainians, who are not fighting the Russians. It's not happening. That didn't happen. So now I'm the only one here with Tom and a few other people you don't know that are in other countries, and they'll remain nameless because they're in kind of rough situations right now at the moment. But there are a few members of the GIA. They do not work for an intelligence agency, have some really good skills, report a lot of really great information, and I appreciate them very much. However, no intelligence agency in the world is listening to us, even though they've repeatedly checked the fact that I'm the director of GIA. They're just ignoring me, like I don't exist. Okay, I'll ignore you too. All right, so directly underneath the GIA would have been MI6. Now, MI6, MI5, the CIA and the Mossad, kind of over the years, I guess you would say, it kind of went sort of like this, you know. And after the kind of the changeover from United Kingdom to America, and then we had the, I think it was called the SCO or something like that prior to the CIA, and then it, you know, officially became the Central Intelligence Agency after World War II. You could probably say the CIA might be a little bit higher. I don't know. It just depends. See, the Mossad is kind of more focused on some of the covens. The CIA are focused on other covens, and the MI6 on other covens, and they're all split. So I used to talk about how the CIA is split into 3 parts, right? Yeah, of course they are. And the reason why is because you have members that are responding to a different coven that have been inserted into the agency from multiple different covens. You see them as an enemy, right? But what you don't know is you're all listening to the same people's orders and instructions every time. You see them as crazy because they're following the Khazarian mafia and you're following what you call the good guys. No, you're just playing the role of the good guys in the game as to who is going to be on top of the order and eliminate the other one. Now we're playing this play to win game since like 2018, right? Every coven wanted to be on top. Every family master was running their show and their game, right? And of course, each parent it was kind of like a joke, like they would have a horse race, and there'd be 10 horses, and these guys are betting on those 2, and this guy's betting on that one, and that lady's betting on that other one, and whatever else. And it didn't really matter because it was just a joke because they still won, right? And at the end of the day, the ultimate restructuring of planet Earth happened. So if you think that there are enemies in the agency, no. You're just playing a different part in your very own video game, right? Now, the agencies historically have all been part of the Order of the Black Sun. That only began to start changing in like 2018 when the predominant order giver happened to be a member of the coven that were on the Order of the Black Sun side versus the Khazarian Mafia side. Now, the money would come every single year to pay for militaries and agencies at the same time. Now, everyone else underneath here would be considered a sub-agency, so to speak. This would also be, all other intelligence agencies would be down here, from here. Doesn't matter what country you're in, China or otherwise. Doesn't make a difference. Russia, all down here. And they know it too, because, the Russians and the Americans, even just real recently, like months ago, were like playing together, with the TransUnion system, trying to get funding for this war and issuing bonds, and the oligarchs, which are generals themselves, right? Old KGB generals, typically. And they were playing the game with the Americans right along. I mean, $800 billion. I don't know. They lost trillions of dollars in that mess up. Well, Yes, they messed up. They messed up because the things that they're playing with don't exist, or they're in the handbook because they were previous orders from a long time ago revived. So we already know where you're going, and therefore we're not funding war. We've talked about that many times. At least I've talked about that many times. So if you want your war, you're going to have to go get it yourself. Okay. All right. So that's intelligence agencies. Then you have other institutions like the Tavistock Institute. You have the Royal Institute for International Affairs based in London. They cover things like, they usually get the orders and instructions for things like intelligence and counterintelligence in places. So they would run both sides of the, I guess you would say, narrative. They would get instructions to do so. That information would then be passed down. They would get information typically from your higher ranking, I guess say some of these people that we just talked about, and in other covens, and they would then pass that information down to these people who would then orchestrate whatever was supposed to happen. Switch the power center of control from Russia, from America to China. Okay, here we go. And then they all put together a structure, and then of course there's a winner, right? Yeah. So counterintelligence, intelligence, anti-drug trafficking, all of these things are orchestrated. So if you think you're a white hat and you're fighting something like this, I can guarantee you're fighting the guy that's probably sitting next to you in the briefing and you just don't even know it. So yeah, also recruiting out of institutions, fraternities, those types of things. Those are all recruitment places for the order. You do have the, on this level, I would say that now you're starting to get to the point where you're talking about the United Nations, political control of countries, right? It's all about control, control, control. And then after the United Nations gets its orders from both the Khazarian Mafia and now the Order of the Black Sun and vice versa, and they're both throwing different things at them. They don't really know what to do anymore. They're getting very confusing instructions because one remaining group is telling you to do this, and then the other remaining group is telling you to do that. But the ultimate first threat came in 2018, right before your contract expired, for the Order of the Black Sun to be subservient to the Illuminati, which was also orchestrated for you by your friends at the top. They knew this was going to happen at this time. They also knew what else was going to happen, and information in Looking Glass has not been accurate since 1998. And I'm telling you that, and I'm going to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, because you were fed exactly what you were supposed to be fed. I'm sorry, today is the day. If you are a member of the order and you are watching this, you are going to suck up the fact that you were told lies. It's time, because we're all tired of you over here. And you have no support, and you're not getting any support, and you're just running around with antiquated equipment trying to get something to work. Okay? So we're going to talk about the 5 remaining groups. So when you tell me, oh my God, the president, we need another president, that's all just a show for you. That's it. They're listening to all these people. They're getting orders from all these people. They might not be high enough in the order to know these people. And some are and some aren't. And maybe they're let in a little bit more when they become president, and maybe not. Just depends if it's part of the operation or not. Now, if you are a head of state in any country, anywhere, you're a part of this. You wouldn't be selected to be a head of state unless you were firmly in their corner. It would never happen. So your hopes and dreams of the Kennedy people and all that people thinking that they were the good guys and they were going to save you, absolutely not. They were running a program. They were programmed. They are in the program. The family is a long-time family of the Order of the Black Sun. Now, that's not to say you're not going to get a black sheep here and there that wants out, right? You never technically get out because they always watch you. It just means you're not playing the game. You're not getting your instructions every year. You're not going to the meetings, eating the babies, being provided by one of these military groups here, and you're not doing the thing, right? You're not actively participating. You can be called on at any moment in time to serve your family. Doesn't mean you will, doesn't mean you won't, doesn't mean you're going to stay alive if you do, right? And that's what everybody is worried about. Well, now we're down to the very bare minimum of order takers, like way down the food chain here. We're down to a few coven members. These are members, not masters. So again, last year's orders came from the now dead people, the 42 coven masters, right? And they got their orders from someone else who got the orders from someone else, right? So to you, they may seem like smart people, like they really know what's going on here. They're following Project Looking Glass. They're going everywhere, trying to do everything right now. And some of them even think they're being the good guys. They've infiltrated, right? Nah, man, you just infiltrated another coven sector of your agency or military. That's all you did. You just don't know it, right? Now, of these remaining coven members, there are 41 as of yesterday. We had 42 yesterday, but one guy was kind of like an honorary guy, and I'll explain to you who he was. They called him an admiral. They gave him this top position. He wasn't a person, okay? He was a former ousted member of the Council of Nine, which I guess you would say rule over the densities, right? These are the universal source appointed police, and they make sure that the dark doesn't overcome the light and the light doesn't overcome the dark. Well, this guy had gone too far dark. So he was ousted, and he had woken up a couple of months ago. We ran into him. I ran into him. He was warned at that time. Now he has now become, I guess you would say, one with source again, as of yesterday. So you don't have Admiral Density Dude anymore. So you've got 41. Okay, group one. Let's talk about what everybody's doing. Or not. This group is the one that is the remnant of the Sanhedrin. Okay. These are the guys that, and ladies or whatever, whoever's involved in this. There are, I think there's only a few left in there. And these are the ones that are doing your World Economic Council story. And they are trying to still establish the new Rome. America would be considered Rome at this point in their card game. And they are going to move it over to China. They have given themselves currently until 2024 to complete this exercise, even though it was supposed to be completed by 2022, hoping and praying for instructions to come in the next 2 weeks. They won't. Okay, I'll tell you why too. Okay, group two. Let's see. Group two is your media narrative group. Okay, so their instructions, apparently the last time they got some, had more to do with controlling the media, running the narrative. We get locked down, we get out again, you know, like that kind of thing, right? That would be where they're at. They're also responsible for inserting handlers into the alternate media and people that are part of their group to give information about whatever narrative they're giving. So you're getting it from the alternative media and you're getting it from the other media, except for this channel. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot of people out there that tell the truth. So the media narrative is now being focused on by these groups. So they do all the branding too. This is where like your Council on Foreign Relations would come in, you know, who's the boogeyman? How are we going to brand the boogeyman in the media? And these are the ones that do all the branding for all of those things. How do they sell, you know, those things and all that stuff to people, the average everyday person? How do we sell new treatments and whatever, you know, like this is your go-to guys right here. And this group actually has the most people right now. I think there's like 13 or something in that little mess, right? So these guys are doing the financial reset that we don't want, right? So when people say you got to end the reset and everybody's complaining about Schwab and his little funky outfits and all that, it's because he's wearing the funky outfit now, you know, recently, because the other people are dead. So he's now thinking he's higher ranking and he can now wear the suit, right? And the funky thing and do the thing because he thinks he's so special. But we know who you are. We know where you are. And that's not even him anyway. This is something else thingy now walking around. These people are crazy. But they got the cloning folks in here. So, you're good, right? Group 3. Group 3 is your military control. This is where your Jesuit order is, your Black Pope, your Richard Weisses, your 5-star generals, whoever's left in that rank and whoever took over their seat. And these are the ones that are running around to Cheyenne and all these different places. And this would also be your DARPAs and some of those other people too. They could also fall under the intelligence and operation and structure group too, which is next. But that's who controls your military. It is a global thing. They are controlling the Russians and the Ukrainians at the same time. Make no mistake, they are. They are the ones that are giving your higher ranking military people orders on both sides. We will tell you something is there. You will believe us. If you haven't checked into it, you should see the movie, The Man, I put this on here before, The Man Who Saved the World. Orders came from the same people. Just a matter of which guy was supposed to pay which role, and that got passed down and down and down and down and down. Okay, Group 4. Group 4 is your operation structures. The reason why everything is such a beep show right now is because your structurers haven't received structure to give you structure. So they're very confused right now. Everybody is looking for orders on which way to go and what to do. Unfortunately, in order to get those orders, I am the only person that you are going to come to because nobody's going to spit out information to you. Nobody. And the others that remain here have changed their entire structure. It changed last year. It's lovely. I'm also a member of their council, just so you know. So I would know if you reached out to anybody or anybody in there was insubordinate, which they won't be because everybody's tired of you and we all just want to go forward. So if you're ready to start the restoration plan, I can put every single one of these groups to work in a positive way for humanity, releasing technologies. But if you are hell-bent on world domination, prepare to die. Okay, so Group 5, one more group. Group 5, sorry, I erased that because it was running out of space, is your political group. They're the political construct controllers. Now, these are the remaining people based on their last instructions from 2 years ago that they got. They formed these remaining groups, and they all grouped together, I guess, who was going to join which group, right? These were coven members. So the political mess that you're seeing in the world right now is coming from these people. They're meant to cause chaos, confusion. They tell every head of state every word that comes out of their mouth before they get on the media groups' TVs. Okay? They control every single thing that they do. Now, if a head of state dies and they are not ready for them to die because they don't have any instructions on what to do now, if it dies, we put it in office, and now what do, right? Well, we keep the narrative going. And that's why you got all those military people, and they're saying they're the alliance and whatever else, and the entire CIAs of the White House and the CIAs of the former president or whatever that was. And these people, they're all controlled by these people. All of them. Every single one. None of them are your hero. You get on TV and you like DeSantis and you like what he's saying, like what she's saying, all orchestrated for your entertainment. They're all on the same program. It just depends on who they think the public will buy to sit in the seat. That's it, right? We, as everyday people, expect our president to come from an education and this and that, right? We expect that because that is the structure that society has put forward to us, right? And we expect that person to be the leader of the free world because they repeated it enough time for us to believe it. It's not true. It is not true. So please, stop waiting for someone to get into a seat when what you need to be concerned about is group 5. That still is operating. This is after all the deaths and all this. This is what we're left with right here. This is your power structure of the world. This is not. This is not. And that's. I'm going to use that term lightly. This is your power structure that's left. Me over here, them over there, doing that. So we can go down and talk about governments, you know who they are, the G8 and blah, 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 blah. But again, nobody's going to breathe, move, or anything without the political section of the order. So never once in history. Don't look at your favorite president and go, oh my God, I love that guy. He was so great. No, he was just part of this. Maybe down further, not privy to the instructions of the instruction maker. But yeah, that's where they are now. Okay, so in order for you to understand what I was writing on the Life Force chat, you firstly have to understand what has happened before. I put on the Life Force chat that there were 25 clone Kimberlys, about 5 years old, over in Belgium just a few days ago. And they were all sitting on respective group member insert name here. This is the reason why they actually told one of my contacts in Russia that he told everybody that he was the representative for Kim. No. He was the representative for baby Kim knew nothing about and did not participate in any way, shape, or form. So how do they do this? Where did they get this idea? I can tell you exactly where they got the idea from. Okay, so I also posted some information, and I know he loves when I talk about him, and he hates me, and that's great. I would hate me too if I were you. Shane, I posted a letter that he received from Cassandra several years back when she was still around and alive, and it kind of called people greedy little piglets and all of this stuff, right? And that if you're not going to create your own world, we're going to create it for you, and you're not stopping us, so why should we bother, and why shouldn't we just continue, right? I also talked about a military group that specializes in essence, right? Now, pure essence can be pure dark or pure light, and that's important to understand as I explain to you my story. I have been doing this with these people for a really long time, and I didn't answer that question when Carrie asked me. I didn't answer the question, not because I don't know the answer. I didn't answer the question because I wouldn't believe me either. Okay, so we've all heard the stories of incarnation, right? You remember past lives. There's plenty of people out there doing past life regressions, and if you're part of these groups, you know it's true. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been bouncing 25 Kims on your knee, hoping one of them was going to gain access, right, to a system. And then wouldn't the father be proud, right? The proud father bouncing the little 5-year-old Kim on your knee, right? Wouldn't you just be so proud if it was you that was chosen? Well, if you're watching this, you're not one of those people because you're dead. So maybe we shouldn't repeat that same mistake again, but we'll go over it. So one of the people, I guess you would say, I've been fighting the Draco or my person has been fighting, not this body, obviously, for 30,000 years. So it's been a long time. And there's only about 15,000 of them have been here. And one of my lifetimes was actually as Cassandra in Greece. And the whole spell about not believing a word that she said and calling her a mad woman, even though all her prophecies were right. So, yeah. But M always knew when the incarnation of me, I guess you would say, came about, and there are others that are like me out there. And he would always be looking constantly because we were their worst enemy and had defeated them in the past in other places. And sometimes we won and sometimes we lost. But nonetheless, so that being said, M did his first clone of Kimberly, whatever 0.0, right? I don't know. And that was Cassandra. So what he did, it's not actually like a clone like you would think. He actually infused this lady who became one of the parents for a very good reason. He needed her. He infused her with dark essence so that she would be born dark, raised her, and then once she was old enough, they tried to trick the system in only seeing pure essence and not dark essence or light essence. I've told you many times that I would lose my job if I did certain things. That is true. I would lose my job if I went dark. Essentially, I have to adhere to the rules of the road very well, and I try my best to do them every single day. Some days are really harder than others, but I do. And that being said, this was just, one other time he had done this, because he realized that the last time he lost against the former me was when he did not manage to get control of the current system. That's why he focused all of these people on trying to get control of it, since he lost control in 2007 and the money machine was shut off. He didn't shut it off. He lied and told everybody he did, probably blamed it on them for being inadequate and all this stuff, and you need to get your together or whatever. And that was a complete and total lie. That was another lie. Matter of fact, I remember going to meetings with him where you people would call him, right? Your coven masters or whoever, the parents or somebody would call him, and he would answer the phone and he would hang up laughing because he's like, I can't believe they just bought that. Because they love to lie. That's what they do. They all did. They thought that we were just stupid humans. They had genetically modified us to the point where I can't disagree with him in some cases as it relates to the people that would have had access to call him. That's for sure. But anyway, moving forward, the system was always my system. It was never not my system. It doesn't matter how many times I incarnated. It's the same system. It's still my system. That's why everybody's so worried about my DNA, so on and so forth, because I contain pure essence. But it is pure light, not pure dark. And all of those things have changed about the system now. It's all been cleaned up. It's been a lot of work over a lot of years to make sure that happened. And, we're getting closer and closer to taking over the remainder of the dark. It is also the reason why I now have on Earth 4 sets of portals, 7, 7, 7, 7, right? 7 light, 7 dark, 7 neutral, and 7 gates to heaven, because I can do these things with the system. And of course, Source is on my side, right? That is your God, your creator. That is not the dark Source. So when Source is with you, you can't lose a war, right? Number 3, I have your instruction manual. I knew the instructions were going to come before they ever came, and I know exactly where you're going to be and when you're going to go there for many different reasons. Number 1, I possess a lot of skills on my own. Number 2, I have a really cool intelligence system that I built, key intelligence and military systems, the one you're looking for access to. Now, I know that you called Tom, and I know that you told him that you wanted access back because you can't talk and you're crying the poor me's. But the reason why you want access back is because tomorrow is the first annual meeting, I should say, because the first one was last year, of the New Earth Council. Now, the New Earth Council does not consist of any Draco, any Abraxas, or anyone that would care if you live or die. And these people, as of last year, have now all reunited. That's 36 different races around planet Earth. And I am a member of the New Earth Council. And I had a discussion with them about instructions and all this stuff. I just wanted to make double sure. And no instructions will be coming this year either. So you're kind of on your own, little group 5 people. So good luck to you. They are very much for the restoration plan. They've been doing a lot of restoration themselves. Some of them have been participating as a military force on my behalf as ground command. And you've probably run into them. Or some of your friends have, for sure, because they're the ones doing a lot of the footwork for us, and that's great. And we are all going to move forward to the restoration of this planet. So that being said, group 5, remaining members, you didn't get to be top cheese. You don't even know anything about what happened from those people and how your orders came. You only know you're looking for an access to a portal to a dark AI system called the Omega or Chronos, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't exist. It's gone. The portal is now our portal. So if you ring on that portal, if I actually let you through the seal on that portal, then you are going to reach me anyway. So you might as well come here, have coffee, hang out. Let's talk about how we're going to change the world. That window is closing very, very quickly. So the others start their meeting tomorrow, and that meeting will go on for 2 weeks. They will be giving orders and instructions from that meeting. I can tell you from the conversation I had with those people today that they are all pretty fed up with you people. You haven't realized that you have lost the war. The Draco are gone. They also lost this war. They will not be back. The queen that's running there now, I talk to often, a lovely lady, very militant, got her own cleanup to do. She's got a mess over there, just like we have a mess. A bunch of people that were loyal to those that are gone. So she's more concerned with that. Mantids are fine as long as we keep our other deal, which wasn't the deal for security over the system. That contract also expired in the last week or so. They are now focused on obtaining what we call living water. So I know I was made fun of, actually by Shane, for saying there's water all over the universe. Well, yes, but there's something very different about plasma charged water, living water, and that's done with etherical plasma, clean, pure, long story short, I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But yeah, you just don't know what you're talking about, even though you were the ruiner and the chosen one. So there you go. And I'm sure he's going to have a field day on the internet with this one, but that's fine. The truth is the truth. A lie is a lie. So anyway, that's about wraps up our structural report for the day. I will be getting together with Sunny a little bit later on in the week, and we will be talking about current events, ideas, and thoughts. I did have a couple more things I wanted to talk about. Oh, okay. If you missed it last week, if you are in the United States, please check out localharvest.org. You can get involved with a crop share agreement there. You can with local farmers directly. I put that out on the chat, but I'm going to repeat it. You look for one in your respective country where you could do a crop share agreement and receive fresh fruits and vegetables for your family. I don't know if we're going to win this in time to make sure we don't have a food shortage, but they're really giving it a go. The good news is they started with all the stuff we don't need. So we don't need to have, certain things in our world, and they make our world easier, but we can just start doing things the old-fashioned way, and people are still living to be 100 years old, so that's got to be a good sign, right? I mean, maybe we should ask them how they made their baby formula, right? Anyway, also, I wanted to say thank you to all of the field messengers. I love your reports. They look great. Keep them coming. And remember, if you want to be a field messenger too from your area and report the news as it really is, then please reach out to the field messenger thread on Telegram. Once again, thank you so much for watching. And for those of you that are ready, let's go change the world.